Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we are back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, January 18th, and we have two things we need to do. Play 20 minions that cost 2 or less, which could be done kind of easily with a Murloc deck, or win 2 games with a Paladin. So let's get rid of the Paladin, win 1 game with a Paladin or Warrior. Alright, did I get the Tavern Brawl done with everything? I believe I did off screen. I've been doing a lot of off screen gameplay these days. The truth is, like, I've been playing Minecraft, and yesterday I spent like 6 hours playing off screen on Minecraft, and Minecraft Stoneblock 2, and it's just so resource and time intensive that, like, it felt like 6 hours, and it felt like the last 2 hours I gave up at that point, and I started cheating in items. I tried to be relatively fair about that, tossing out a lot of stuff and not really crafting anything that I don't think I could have crafted. But it's such a weird bottleneck that it's put you in. Like, I have awakened draconium chickens pumping out awakened draconium, and yet I don't really have enough resources to make enough power generators, because as far as I can tell, unless I'm supposed to crossbreed a Yellorium chicken to make a nuclear reactor, it seems like the game really just wants me to make a rainbow generator. But to make a rainbow generator would mean I need nether stars, which means I need to fight withers. So everything, 3 of the 6 like quests that are in the main quest book all start with you having to have a nether star, which means you have to fight a wither, which that's gonna be really hard, because I really haven't been, like, my little mob grinder doesn't seem like it really works, and it even if it is working, it's hardly doing a great job of giving extra resources. I finally figured out how to get into Thaumcraft, and immediately I just hate Thaumcraft. It's so out there and just not like anything that is in the rest of modded Minecraft, and it's annoying. I kind of hate the ME system and applied energetics for the same reason, is that if it pretends and feels like it's gonna automate things and make it really easy, but in actuality not really. It's just complicating things for its own sake. Like, when it really feels like 90% of the things you need an ME system for are just so you can craft parts to expand your own ME system. It's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm seeing the beginning of the end. And my only hope is that I need to do another recording, and I need to stop doing things really off screen in general. But my real hope is that I will be able to kill withers and start nether stars growing. If not, maybe I could make a nether star chicken. I mean, I certainly have set up in my cold storage, through some amount of cheating, I've set up a ridiculous amount of resources that could be created just by the chickens. Meanwhile, the fluid cows, so I'm really not anywhere close to finishing that. Let's see.
Reporting for duty.
And then do this.
Battle.
and in the turn. Otherwise, like, if I can't kill a wither, then I've got to think about just cheating my way to defeating, like, the End Dragon, which is the End Chicken in Stoneblock 2, and the Chaos Dragon, which would be the Chaos Chicken. Just maybe if I could get into Project E a little bit more, where you're transmutating things and thus the game is different.
Speak your peace.
Let's see. Let's just keep playing here.
Job's done.
But yeah, I kind of need to wrap up Minecraft and just be like, all right, this is gone. It was the last time I played any kind of Minecraft was 2016. After doing Stoneblock 2 and really trying to like these mods, I think I'm done for another couple of years. Ironically, the newest version of unmodded Minecraft is adding a composting barrel, which is certainly something that is directly from Skyblock. Like, that's been in modded Minecraft for years and years. Although the composting barrel in standard Minecraft is works almost exactly the same, but it doesn't give you dirt, it gives you bone meal, which is fine, because in standard Minecraft you don't create an empty void world or a world full of only one resource like Stoneblock does. Like, I'm trying to get it really nice with the cold storage that I'm building to hold all of my inventory, but I'm still not 100% sure that the ME system really is working with all the drawer system to that point. But frankly, I would need all of the drawers to be upgraded to infinite capacity, and before I can even do a second layer. And at that point, maybe I could upgrade everything to infinite capacity again.
Reporting for duty.
Let's see. I might as well do this. Poisonous. And I guess might as well do this.
To battle.
Do that, and then the turn.
Move quickly.
It's gonna be weird scheduling Minecraft too. It's gonna be like, okay, this is what you get. This is what I decided to play. There's so many other AAA, AA, single A games I could have played, but instead I'm doing a Minecraft mod that at best is in beta. There's a glitch when you use like a crescent hammer on a drawer where the crescent hammer disappears, but it also seems like the crescent hammer just disappears in general a lot of times. So like that kind of sucks. Maybe there's a better wrench you're supposed to use these days instead of the crescent hammer. Yeah, once these videos come out, if anybody watches them, I imagine I'll get a lot of people who talk about how I'm doing everything absolutely wrong, and they will not be inaccurate at all. Like, I almost certainly am doing everything wrong. Like, my ignorance is very, very large when doing this, but the game is also kind of failing to tell me what I'm supposed to do or how I'm supposed to do it. Like, it feels like there could have easily been an overview of the quest that pointed towards, like, you need nether stars. You need to get iron, you need to get diamonds, you need to get emeralds, you need to get nether stars. Those, I guess, are the generic things that you usually need to do, but I've been out of the game, as it were, with Minecraft so long, even that is not abundantly apparent. I should have played this instead.
Job's done.
Let's see. Alright, moving on, then we can start talking about the news. Yeah. You know, I say it every day, every time we stream, but this is a Friday, and I doubt too many people are going to be watching anyways, so let's just try and burn through the news. Daily quests are also going to be kind of short today because we try to work it that way. We definitely don't want Friday to be the long day of streams.
No more take.
Reporting for duty.
This guy has 3 cards, so unless one of them is the Mechathune,
Well played.
like, that's the only thing. It is Mechathune.
Spectacular.
So he was holding on the cards
Rise against
to make it seem like he had nothing left. With the introduction of Mechathune, it feels like there should be something to bounce that off better. There really aren't a lot of cards that destroy Mechathune in somebody's hand, or destroy cards in the opponent's hand, and it's kind of ridiculous that you'd have to even have a card in all the top meta decks just to account for somebody playing that strategy.
Your soul shall be mine. I will fight with honor.
Alright, let's start covering the news. TechRaptor has an article. Sony fined by the Italian Antitrust Authority for not making the need for PlayStation Plus obvious enough.
Why do you go?
I guess that is always a concern. I haven't felt like there's been a ridiculous amount of complaints of that happening, though, to be fair. That being said, both Microsoft and Sony and even Nintendo at this point, all of them kind of hide, and it's just assumed that you are not getting a valid experience unless you have the online service. Like, I would not buy an Xbox One or whatever the most latest Xbox is without also buying Xbox, what is it, Xbox Live. I would not buy a PlayStation if I planned on playing PlayStation games without buying PlayStation Plus. Although PlayStation Plus in particular wasn't really needed originally, so I could see some confusion just from that, because there definitely was a point where you had a PlayStation 3 and you could have just played online without PS Plus. So it's, I think, a case of they took away something that they had already been given away for free.
The light protects me.
And even Nintendo's online service is definitely that too. Is like, to play games online now, you need the Nintendo online service. And honestly, it shouldn't be that way. It really shouldn't. I might buy a PlayStation 4 to play Blu-rays, but I'm not even sure if you want like a 4K Blu-ray player at this point. I don't think that is a PlayStation 4. I don't think it's an Xbox One X either. I think that somewhere out there, I can't tell you the model, there is a good like 4K Blu-ray player that you would want. I'm not sure what it is. Let's go kill that. So I guess I could read this whole story, but let's see. They fined the company €2 million. But I assume also they are requiring them to be more obvious about it. In a slightly related story we'll talk about later, Peggy has decided, Peggy, which is the European video game rating board, that's probably a little bit more consumer friendly than the ESRB, that's basically just run by the worst of the worst video game companies. Peggy came out and they're adding a new indicator of something. You don't know if I can remember what the something is.
Reporting for duty.
I fight.
But we'll talk about that story when it pops up. Gamasutra has an article. Air Memories of Old Developer Forgotten Key is closing down. That's Air, AER, Memories of Old. It is an indie studio behind the game 2017 Air Memories of Old is closing its doors after 7 years of releasing demos for its unreleased and unannounced projects on itch.io as a result. Let's see. The CEO, Robin Hjelt, Hjelt.
Let me think.
Let's do
Reporting
this.
for duty. Reporting for duty.
This. Exactly what I wanted.
To battle! To battle! Job done.
Let's see. The CEO spoke candidly about the coming closure in a Medium post. The fact that people just post things in different places like Medium and all over the place shows there's real room for a good place to post articles that we've yet to find.
Your magic shall not save me.
Reporting for duty.
Quote, the answers are probably many and nuanced, where we will surely fall to whatever the opposite of survival bias is called when trying to find explanations, end quote. One answer is probably the market's development, another personal misjudging of priorities, and third, the inherent problem between making business out of creativity and art. So, as far as Forgotten Key goes, though, I don't think they made anything else. And so here's where you would want to go and see if we can. Let's see. Forgotten Key developer. And see, I'm trying to see if, well, I can't find a Wikipedia, but I did find their Steam
The light
page.
protects me.
So let's do this.
Reporting for duty.
In return. So this game over here, Air Memories of Old, it's made by Forgotten Key, came out October 25th, 2017. Honestly, it looks like a pretty good puzzle platformer style game. This isn't the game Rhyme that was kind of a disappointment. So what happened here, I think, if I can look back, and is that it just didn't get enough mainstream journalist coverage. And that's a sad thing to have to say, but yeah, I think that's kind of it. It just failed to get press. What was happening October 25th, 2017? Probably some major AAA games were coming out at that same time. You can see it's mostly positive in the last 30 days, 87% positive in total. There's nothing wrong with it. Maybe it was a little bit overpriced. And if we look at the developer, yeah, they've never developed anything else on Steam. So this is a game I definitely want on my wish list and want to play, but very possibly I might already own. But the truth is, it's also probably a case of most games like this, most indie developers just don't know how to run a business, so that's the problem. Is you can make an amazing piece of art, but if you can't run a business, this is why the concept of patronage would be very much appreciated in the artist world. In the old days, and I don't know if this was better or not, but it was people like the Pope, the Catholic Church, and the rich aristocrats directly paying these artists who really could not sell their art to peasants or individuals because peasants and individuals didn't have any money, and B, they wouldn't spend it on that anyways. So the only way you could do modern patronage is if governments took the people's money and invested it in art grants, which is not a terrible thought. I know in like Central America or Mexico, artists can just pay their taxes by donating paintings they painted, which sounds like a pretty good system to me. Yeah, there's a little bit of a bias here. If I could get an art grant to continue to run my YouTube channel, and it paid the bills, or even paid anything at all, that would be amazing.
None will survive.
And so the fact that we don't have the concept of patronage, it's not being done. A game like Air's Memory of Old then has to go to a publisher, and then the publisher has to flip the bill. And in this instance, their publisher was Daedalic Entertainment, which Daedalic Entertainment is a medium at best publisher. And still, when you go to a publisher, this isn't a case where the artists make the art and somebody else handles all the business. It's still a case of where the person in charge of Forgotten Keys has to handle the business. They have to handle the payroll and all of that. the irony is, if you are the person in charge, if you're the manager or the project lead, you're not really being a creative type anymore. And you probably do better if you never were a creative type. You need to be just the person who's very equivalent to being a manager at a bank, a manager at a restaurant. It's just making sure people get paid on time, making sure people are doing the work they need to do, having an accountant to do all your taxes, stuff like that. Friendly Murloc. Let's see if there's... So, it's not really surprising that a company like that would come out, would fail. 7 years. If you subtract 1 year, because the Air came out October 26, 2017, that means they spent 6 years in development making that one game, which I don't know, but maybe for your first game you kind of have to rush it out a little bit more. And even if you weren't rushing, 4 years sounds a lot more reasonable than 6. I wonder if, I mean, you can just kind of wonder regardless, but I wouldn't be surprised if Forgotten Key is doing business with Daedalic Entertainment. That probably means they're mid-European German company. So if that's the case, then they might be just struggling with the economy in Europe right now. Anyway, so that could also be an issue. I mean, unfortunately, a story like that without more information really is just going to go into speculation, and nobody really has the time or energy or desire to do deep dives into finding out why any specific company failed, like so many do. It's not unheard of. It's very typical also for companies to only make one game and then break up. The good news is a lot of the people in companies that break up after that first game go and make their own companies or go work at different companies. We haven't quite yet gotten to the point where the video game industry chews up a person for their first game and then they never end up working in the industry again. But we are moving sadly closer towards that. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article. Steam reveals 2018 year in review. Let's see. Just looking at a picture here. Steam stats overview: 47 million daily active users, 90 million monthly active users. So that means that, what does that mean? Does that mean that on average somebody plays at least once every 2 days on Steam? I guess. 18.5 million peak concurrent users, which is to say that at one point nearly well, I guess at one point 18.5 million people played at the same time, and 1.6 million new purchasers per month. So every month there is 1.5 million new people coming on the Steam making their first purchase. How many of those were fake accounts designed specifically to just cheat on CSGO and get VAC banned? We may never know that one. Let's see. This would have to have been the only minion on the battlefield, period. So I wouldn't have been able to use that. Let's see. They've made apparently some changes to the Steam chat. I couldn't care less about that. I'm not gonna ever use Steam chat. Apologies to anybody that friended me on Steam and tried to use it. Says since September the moderation teams went through 113,290 reported posts in Steam chat. Says it increases higher quality voice chat and more organized friend list. Let's see. Storefront also saw a new version of Steam Play released in August. This allows gamers to play Windows games on a Linux client, even if the game is no longer has no Linux version. It also introduced DirectX 11 and 12 support for Vulkan, so games can run better. Apparently, more PC gamers are turning to controller over keyboard and mouse. I think that's reasonable, certainly. Because of this, Valve upgraded the Steam input, which now supports 300 devices, including the Switch Pro controller.
None will survive.
3.8 billion items were created thanks to the platform's inventory service. This allows any Steam game to have items with unique dynamic properties. Yeah, I think the items concept is a mess, though. It's gonna make them some money for a while, but it's rife with scams. Let's see, they upgraded their network infrastructure. Let's see. And then their 2019 expectations are store discoverability. They want to do a Discovery 3.0, I imagine. They want to push out and continue to release Steam in China by partnering with Perfect World, which they've already been working on that. They're getting some UI updates like a reworked library, which a reworked library would be very helpful for me and people with a lot of games. They want to do Steam TV, which is streaming. They want to do revamp the mobile chat experience, and there's something here that says Steam PC Cafe program. Oh yeah, this is a special version of Steam that would be installed in gaming cafes, generally the things that you'd see in like Korea. My guess is that it would be a version specifically locked down so people couldn't log into their own accounts or buy items. Through all of that, some of my concerns that have been popping up for the past 6 months are ignored completely. But I don't know what to say about that too. It seems like maybe they're just letting it blow over, and maybe they reversed course. Like, see, this is the weird part of dealing with anybody, is that if the person just doesn't address something, then it's just every incident after every incident. And I'm trying to figure out how to explain this better. let's say a person had a bad habit of talking in the movies, but you haven't gone to the movies with this person for a while, and you've heard that they've gone to the movies with other people and you haven't really heard of a complaint about it. So either it's a case of the other people aren't as bothered by that person talking in the movies, or they just stop doing it. Like, and it's really not a good way to say anything is resolved. We are just kind of left with this, with a thing being unresolved here, as far as Steam and whether it's sticking to its word and not going to censor, or whether Steam has changed its mind and it is going to censor. And all we can do is wait at the moment until some other video game company decides to complain about it. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Plunder. It doesn't look too bad, but while I was watching this video, it seems like it brings up a chat box that I thought was actually just somebody doing such a terrible job of recording its, yeah, this looks like somebody is just like recording their own screen and they're just doing such a terrible job. But maybe that is supposed to be part of the game. Regardless, this is one of those sailing around shooting each other games, and it looks animated well enough, but it doesn't have enough polish for me. It's free to play anyways, so I'm not going to put it on the wish list. Let's do this. Next, we have a game on Steam called Box the Game, which looks like a simplistic one-screen Unity game. I guess the general idea is any piece you touch connects to the piece you touched, but that's kind of easy to do. Like, if you just slow down the action that you're doing right now, that would be rather easy. Or maybe you're not moving the pieces as much as you're moving the box on the outside, but that still doesn't really change much of what you're creating. Simplistic game, not really worth 4,049 cents in my opinion. So, yeah, that's not going to be on the list. Let's do this. And I believe with that, we are done with the Americas account. So let's move over to the European account. So GameIndustry.biz has this article. Peggy announces new content descriptor for in-game purchases with physical products. An important first step in helping making parents make informed purchase decisions, says Peggy, managing director.
The crowd is getting rowdy.
So it's a content descriptor for in-game spending in digital-only games is already in use, but this is the first time a new icon will appear on packaging of physical products. So I was assuming that this is like Amiibo. Let's see, Shaman, Rogue. Let's get rid of the victories so we're not stuck here. So we need to play Druid and Rogue, and that should get everything. And I got this Tavern Brawl done off screen, so we have another pack to open. Wasn't really getting any great drops Wednesday, but I guess that's just how it's gonna go, is you have to burn through 30 to 40 packs of classic to get one legendary. Meanwhile, this is building up our dust count, and we're building up our gold count. It's crazy to think that we might be halfway to yet another expansion, but we might be halfway to yet another expansion. Let's see, rogue or druid. We'll start with druid, I guess, and might as well just play. Let's see. There's a quote here: while we know that parents use different methods to control spending, parental control tools are very helpful in next step in making sure the overall online experience of the child is safe, including the possibility to control spending.
I must protect the wild.
The new in-game purchases descriptor will begin appearing on physical retail releases towards the end of the year and will be applied to all titles featuring in-game spending. I think I might be misunderstanding this. I thought this was talking more about amiibos, but this really seems like Peggy just didn't have the in-game purchases symbol on physical copies of games before, or perhaps they just made a new logo. Quote, for a parent who may not be fully familiar with video games landscape, seeing a simple descriptor on the package of a game they consider buying should trigger a reflex of keeping an eye on the gameplay once the game has been purchased and given to the child. It's basic information, but that's what parents sometimes feel they are lacking. Let's see. The decision follows the recent consumer survey conducted by IPSOS, which showed 2 in 5 parents of their children that play games claim their children spend money in games. According to the survey, 8 in 10 of those parents have an agreement with their child about spending, such as requiring permission 60%, a spending limit 31%, use of parental controls 28%, monitoring credit card bills 25%, or using prepaid cards. Just 2% of parents no not monitoring, it says, the in-game spending. I think it was supposed to be are not monitoring. This is an awful article. Man, it just never stops with these bad articles. Like, honestly, if I was writing articles like this, they probably would be this bad too. But I wouldn't write articles for GameIndustry.biz or Gamatsu or Gamasutra or anything like that without somebody being an editor and just reading it. Even if it was just I was having a friend read it for me, because yeah, anybody can write something that doesn't quite make sense, but the fact that it made it to the publication is unacceptable. Like, what are people going to think in 100 years when they start seeing these articles and it looks like the English language has just devolved into the mutterings of a person who's had a stroke or something, or mutterings of a crazy person, because nothing is written well enough.
We will devour this world.
I was going to do that, but I guess I'll do this. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Urban Justice. Now, this looks a little generic, like a beat-em-up brawler. I'm not sure I really like the graphics here, but there's some polish here, too. Maybe this would just be a short experience, and so I'd be willing to go through it. $7.99 is a little too expensive for what this looks like it is. And yeah, it's got several acts, but I wouldn't be surprised if each act is just one 10 to 20 minute level. I'll be generous and put this on the follow list, and we'll see what people say about it. Man, I just woke up and I'm already yawning again. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Playtika, Playtika, acquires the Austrian mobile developer Supertreat. Neither one of these companies are recognizable, so this is like a this is just like mobile companies acquiring each other. Apparently Supertreat has a game called Solitaire Grand Harvest, which is the #4 grossing card game on Google Play.
Job's done.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Sick Love, an RPG Maker novel. It looks terrible. It's not even widescreen. That's the question, is why are you not making these widescreens by default? Why is RPG Maker even allowing that? It's been a while since we started seeing games come out with the RPG Maker title, but it seems like it's happening again. 89 cents discounted. The title Sick Love is probably going to be provocative. It's not tagged with any nudity or sexual content. So I wouldn't expect there to be even a few brief scenes of something that might be interesting in it. And see, that's a weird way to phrase it, but it really is the case for a lot of these RPG Maker games, is that even the makers seem to imply that if you play this terrible game, you will eventually get to see like one scene of nudity that might be worth the entire purchase and the entire effort, which of course it isn't and never could be. Like, sure, back in the 80s or 90s, when you didn't have the internet, something like that might be intriguing, but not now. Okay, next we have a game on Steam called Yik, a postmodern RPG, and it seems to be a very weird looking game. Like, very, very weird. But I like weird. So I don't know if this really breaks down into an actual good game, but yeah, it's something that I want to keep an eye on. Let's see. This might be pretty short. $19.99. This guy with the red hair and red beard looks a lot like Will Smith, not the actor Will Smith, but Will Smith, who runs a video game VR company, although it's not really a video game, called the Foo Show, F-O-O, as in Foo Bar. I don't know if that's who they're mimicking, or if there's perhaps a cartoon I don't recognize. These other characters seem to just be random things. But yeah, that definitely is one of the weirdest games I've seen in a while.
The light protects me.
A minion with taunt is in the way.
Okay, can I do this? Do I want to do this? No. Just in the turn. Next, we have a game on Steam called DevMe. In this game, you're playing a game developer and you encounter typical problems like eating and sleeping. You need to correctly allocate your time for human needs, hobbies, and work. Interesting. This is an interesting concept, but it's probably just a troll joke game too. So I'll put this on the follow list and we'll see if it actually is something that might be an interesting idea. I don't know how accurate it would be either. And in the end of the day, like, this is discounted to $4.49. And at the end of the day, a video game developer complaining about how difficult it is to make a career as a video game developer is still kind of like a first world problem. Like, we really haven't gotten to the point where we found any video game developer who is living in a mud hut and starving to death and incapable of getting other sources of income or a different job. If you are a programmer, there is the ability to program out there. Whether that is by leaving the video game industry and going to make an accounting software, or like a personnel software, or some custom piece of code that would satisfy any number of other industries. You have those skills, you can use them. Let's see. By the way, last stream I wondered out loud about Onimusha Warlords, which is a release of Onimusha, whether the scene where a woman, she doesn't actually turn into a spider, like I said, a woman turns into this giant demonic wasp woman, which was censored in the Western version, in the English version. I wondered out loud if the new version was still censored. The answer to that is, it is and it isn't. This was a Onimusha Warlords is a kind of simplistic re-release, so I mean, it's just kind of a basic upgrade. It's not a remake, it's just a remaster type thing. So if you have the language set to Japanese, you see the scene uncensored. If you have the language set to English, you see it cut. There's a slight difference in the voice acting, but honestly, it wouldn't have been too hard to have anyone go in there and add some grunts, because that's literally all it is that would have been missing in the English version, is just the woman voice actor making some grunts. So but you know what, that very possibly wouldn't have matched. audio, and it may have sounded just very awkward. But I mean, you could certainly have just had silence there, and that would have worked pretty well too. I guess we're just still playing druid cards, or we could swap over to rogue cards. In all honesty, the one scene that is that like one scene that's censored is not anything. You could certainly look at it online. It might have been something when Onimusha first came out 20 years ago. I think it's 20 years old. But you know, it's not really anything by modern standards. At least for an adult audience. Although the bigger question, I suppose, is really Onimusha as a game series would be hard. It would be a hard niche game for me to play, certainly. Not because the game is difficult. I think I could probably play it on easy just fine. But it is just gonna feel very, very rough with its set camera angles and its limited number of buttons and combinations, and the game is just not gonna play very smoothly like a modern game would. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article. Naruto Oju, that's O-U-J-O, to Naraneko Heart 2 console demo available now in Japan. Let's see. It's probably just easier to show off the name than me trying to pronounce this. Naruto Ojo Oho to Naraneko Heart console demo now available in Japan. It's a visual novel. It is now available for PS4, Switch, and PS Vita. It was on the PC October 2017. So there is a possibility that this visual novel is coming out. Let's see. Seems like it's a sequel to a game, and yep, no real indication on what the story is about. Just get that one screenshot. Alright. Let's do this.
Ha, this guy's toast.
Here we
do this. So, yeah. By the way, here's what the Peggy in-game purchases logo looks like. TechRaptor had the same article. So, yeah, when you compare TechRaptor versus GameIndustry.biz, TechRaptor seems to understand the internet a lot better because they have pictures and they actually display things visually. Let's see. But then GameIndustry.biz does have an occasional ability to GameIndustry.biz does have an eventual ability to spin
so many options.
Talk about things that nobody else talks about business-wise, inside baseball-wise.
Here we go.
Just looked at the chat, and Lemon Lover asks, quick question, Rydo, do you write your 2s as 3 lines similar to Z, or with a loopy bottom? Interesting thought. Okay. The truth of the matter here is as somebody who was classically trained as a programmer and did everything technical, I really haven't written anything down in an extremely long amount of time. Everything I do is typing or voice dictation.
This guy's toast.
Like, I do have a little bit of arthritis in my hand, so that also, like, grabbing a pen and paper is not my first go-to anyways, and my handwriting was never particularly good. So you're asking when I draw a 2, do I do it as 3 lines, which would be like, honestly I probably do it as 2 lines because I probably just curve the top half as one swoop, in kind of like this. That's like 1 line and then a line that way. That's probably how I would draw a 2 if I was to do it.
So many.
I don't definitely I don't definitely go this way and then swoop around and do a loop, or I guess, like, I don't know how you'd even do that. Like, it's an odd question, Lemon Lover, but whatever. The truth is I don't do either. I don't write. In 2019, heck, even 10 years ago, the need for me to write anything down is so incredibly rare that I just don't actively do it. So there have definitely been cases when, like, I need to write something down and I have completely forgotten how to write it, and I'm talking how to write it in
This guy's toast.
regular script. Like, I gave up on cursive at least 2.5 decades ago. I guess I'm giving away my age there, but like at least a couple decades ago, I gave up on writing anything in cursive. So like, I only would print something, and my print would look horrible if I had to write it down, but you really don't need to write down too much. Like, the biggest amount of writing I've done in my adult life was simply signing my name multiple times when I was buying my first house. Like, that is the only time you really need to do things. Everything else, it's all email, it's all this and that. Very few people use checks. Checks aren't very secure, so you're not signing and writing things there. That's kind of why schools these days have given up on trying to even teach cursive, because cursive was always this bad system. The next thing we'll start seeing is we'll get away from the keyboard layout that is the standard keyboards these days, and we'll start having keyboards that are a lot more logical. But yeah, they don't teach kids cursive anymore. There's no need to. Nobody has got a job where they need to write that fast. They used to teach secretaries shorthand, and you don't need that anymore, because there aren't jobs where you have a secretary just writing down everything that's being said in the meeting. If you want that, you record it, you video record it at that point. Stenographers in court cases, like, that's still a job, and so knowing how to type in a I think it's called a stenography machine, it is something like a special skill. But honestly, you'd be better off learning sign language than you would be learning cursive. So you can speak and communicate with people who are deaf and mute. But yeah, my handwriting is pretty unreadable at this point. If I was to write anything down, then yeah, you just don't need it. Like, even now, making like a grocery list, which if you need to do that, if you can't just know what you need to buy, that is being done through shopping apps now. My local grocery store it's been pushing a new shopping app, and they just introduced like home delivery, and I'm kind of excited about that concept of just not having to spend so much time at the grocery store when I'm at the grocery store, because there's a lot of things that you can buy in a grocery store that don't matter quality wise, which could limit you down to like a reasonable 10-20 minutes of running through a grocery store just to find, hey, do I want to pick fruits and vegetables and get the good ones versus potentially having a home delivery service give me the bad quality, the ones that are about to spoil.
I fight.
So yeah, you could run around and say, hey, I'm gonna go pick some vegetables, fruits and vegetables. I'm gonna go into like the meat sections and see if there's any like manager specials or sales. I'm gonna go look at like the milk and stuff like that. Check out if there's like a clearance sale or something. But things like cereal, who cares what box of cereal gets delivered to your house? Yeah, things like that. Bread, you might want to look at. It depends very much on what the level of quality and the expiration date you want to have on some foods. To get back to video game talk though, TechRaptor has an article. The Elder Scrolls Online goes elsewhere, ELSWEYR, this summer. Which this is really just an advertisement for the Elder Scrolls Online, but yeah, I don't know how many people really care about that. Let's hit this. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Be Calm, which I've rated positive already. Let's see, it seems like it's just this one scene with some visualizations on the front of it. You know, this doesn't really appeal to me because it's a case of, if you've never really been on a sailboat just sailing down lazily down the river, which I don't know how many people actually have, this kind of just feels like an experience that I can't relate to. And it really is just a smart asset flip that's going on here, because they're changing the skybox and the area around you, but that's kind of all you're doing. It doesn't look like there's any other game part to this. It seems like it's tagged music, so let's see. It's free, so I guess that's the right price for something like this, but yeah, I really cannot relate to this concept of just sailing. Let's see, what do we want to do?
Here we
Kill
go.
this. Do this. Do this. And do that. Let's see. Lemon Lover, Tragic Master said he was a looper, and then put Lemon Lover. And then Lemon Lover said, Tragic, you're a looper? This came up because I noticed my brother looping and told him he's one of the only adults I've noticed to do that. I guess I haven't been really looking though, but I noticed him do it. Yep. Thanks for the backstory, Lemon Lover, because that was kind of an out of nowhere question. But I don't mind out of nowhere questions in general. I'm just definitely an outlier too. I don't suspect that most people have completely abandoned writing things. A lot of this probably boils down to whether you write in a journal or you draw or doodle. If you're doing some other activity that has a pen and paper in your hand, I imagine you have maintained the idea of writing a lot more than me. But I always had basically a keyboard in my hand, so everything I typed was more focused on computer language and programming and things like that, and not focused on how things look at. And as for like fonts, which would be the equivalent there, is most programming compilers, at least in my day, didn't really have any reason in which you would change the default font, so it usually is just like Times New Roman, like the default, or something that looks very much like that. Let's see, Gamatsu has an article. The Legend of Heroes Trails of the Cold Steel 3 is coming to the West this fall. So it'll be coming to the PS4 in North America and Europe this fall, according to the publisher NIS America. It'll feature the Japanese and English audio and English and French text. In addition to the standard $59 early enrollment edition, which includes a copy of the game and the soundtrack, a $99 Thor's Academy edition is also going to be available. It includes like a hardcover book.
Here we go.
And some other stuff. Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel is an RPG, I know that much. I think it's one of these train-based RPGs, like one would assume. It's 3D characters, and they're in some kind of outfit, and they have mechas. Yep. I don't want to show this trailer because it's too anime looking, too animated. Anything that looks too animated might be
Here we go.
copied. It seems like they fight like giant monsters with swords. Too. See, the funny thing here is I think Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel is one of these series that has been on Nintendo consoles and is pretty family friendly. But if Steam's we won't allow any games with characters in school uniforms rule stays intact, this would not be allowed on Steam, which might be very well the case, because it is rather odd that a game would come out only for the PlayStation 4. Nowadays it is very much a case of games come to at least 2 consoles, You don't put all your eggs in one basket. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Supergiant's fourth outing, Hades, introduces a more mature, organized development process. Let's see. There's a paragraph here that's why Supergiant is tackling early access for the first time. Let's see.
I fight. Here we go.
Kill that. And then there's a paragraph choosing to go with the Epic Games Store. Oh yeah, this is an Epic Game only store. And then there's a paragraph, the origin of Hades. This is pretty much an advertisement for Hades. I've not been super excited with Supergiant's releases, honestly. Bastion was really good, but then Transistor was not something that I found particularly interesting, and I don't even know what their third game was. Like that's odd. How, like, I don't even know what their third game was if it was Bastion and Transistor, unless they released a game before Bastion. And that's the one I don't recognize. No. Yeah, Supergiant must have made something, but I don't know what even their third game has. And must have clicked on an ad at some point. Interesting. Like, have a full page telling me we blocked this. We blocked this page because it was an ad. And that must mean it's a pretty bad ad, because I don't have that strict of
this guy's toast.
Of ad blockers installed. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz, a former PlayStation, Take-Two, and Nintendo execs launch a blockchain publisher. Planet Digital Partners will use 38 million blockchain token sale to secure investment in 10 new games. This is a bad idea. Like, these have already been mentioned and called out by the U.S. Security Exchange Commission, which is to say that it is clearly a bad idea. So, the short of it, as I understand it, is these blockchain initial offerings are a scam, because you're making this fake currency, saying your fake currency is worth $38 million. You're then trading that fake currency for real world currency like US dollars, and using that real world currency to then fund whatever the rest of your business is. In this case, up to 10 new games. And the way this is phrased, former PlayStation, Take-Two, and Nintendo execs, doesn't really mean anything. Like, you could find some shady executives from any of these companies. Let's go back to Druid. Let's see. Gematsu has an article. The Giga Wrecker Alt has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch. And Giga Wrecker Alt, either I talked about this game before, or the predecessor of this game just came out in a new version on Steam, or I just ran into it. So Giga Wrecker is this weird one where you have this anime-esque girl with this arms, and you've got all these kinds of monsters. Let's see. Maybe this isn't actually out on PC yet. And there's a trailer. It's from Game Freak, which isn't Game Freak the developer of the Pokemon games? I'm gonna watch this trailer and just see. It's rated teen for teen, blood, and fantasy violence.
None will survive.
And it's coming to everything except for PC. The art style on Giga Record is slightly different from many of the others.
Time waits for no one.
Just like a standard anime thing. And the gameplay is that metal arm lets her create objects and giant balls and throw balls of trash at things. So it's a platform puzzler action game. I guess the general idea is she is a one-person wrecking ball. Literally.
Speak your peace.
I fight.
Yep. It still looks like an interesting game with an interesting art style. Might be a little bit difficult, but I'd be willing to go through it. There's ways to upgrade your powers. Apparently there will be a new puzzle hint system, and as part of console exclusives, and an Iron Man mode and more. See, that kind of sucks that you would support something on PC and then the console versions get these exclusives, but that is pretty typical too. So I'm not super surprised by that. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called The Hardest Brick Breaker. This is, regardless of its difficulty, it looks just like an incredibly boring black and white version of Arkanoid. It seems like maybe it's indicating that there's some different angles that you can put the paddle at, which would maybe change the gameplay a little bit. Or it seems like maybe the paddle just rotates on its own. It's $1.69 discounted, and I'm still very much not interested.
For the wild.
I fight.
Job done.
Let's see. Next game is tagged with nudity and sexual content, so I won't show it off. It's called Nya 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 Girls 2, and then a bunch of symbols to show a cat. So this is one of these slide puzzle games with anime girls and levels of of being undressed. They don't actually look like they're even cat girls. They more look like they're girls just pretending to be cats, which is a thing I've done. One of these screenshots does have the anime girls completely topless, and I still think that that's a mistake. Like, I don't think in the promo material that should happen. It seems like this is all the same art though. And nope, 2 of the screenshots have the girls completely topless. But yeah, this is a slide puzzle game discounted to 59 cents. Like, and there's literally nothing, no reason you'd ever really want to buy that. Like, let's see. What am I looking at? as far as this next game.
I wonder.
So this next game, as best as I can tell, is a half-finished horror game that they decided to abandon halfway and try and turn into a player versus player like battle royale game. So it's the Ring characters, and it seems like they're just dancing and shimmering here. 1v5 Note of Souls. This is probably just a half-finished project. I bet this is a Chinese thing too. Like, I don't think you really would get a... This is slightly interesting, but like, I don't think you'd get a good horror game ever, like Japanese horror game inspired, that was player versus player, English language not supported here, early access, and yes, simplified and traditional Chinese for $16.99 discounted. Yeah. None of those asynchronous horror games really worked in the battle royale horror game where you're playing as multiple like horror style bad guys. Kinda doesn't work either. Because it's gonna be just storyline breaking if you could get like all the licenses to Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, like the Psycho character, like Hannibal Lecter, things like that. If you could just somehow get the license to all the most recognizable horror characters possible, and then you had a game where each player got to pick one of those people and they were fighting each other, it would just be like annoying, because everybody's favorite character they would expect to win, and the gameplay mechanic really wouldn't work that well. You would be better off just doing what PUBG does or Fortnite does and just having random... Everybody in all of those games, Overwatch, same thing. Everybody is a soldier with a expected reasonable amount of survival skills, but nobody really has magical abilities too much. I guess Overwatch people have their special abilities, but they're not crazy powerful. Jason Voorhees or Freddy Krueger, for example, like both of their TV series both of their movie series has clearly put them in a position where they are immortal and will survive anything and everything that you could throw at them. Which, even in the Friday the 13th game that came out, that was definitely a big problem. Let's see. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Cube Missions, which is just... doesn't look terrible, but it is just a cube rolling around, picking up some other cubes. Maybe I'll be generous here and keep this on the fall list. But we've seen so many games like this. Usually you're not playing as a cube, you're playing as a ball. But yeah, I'm not sure I really could justify playing something like this. It's kind of repetitive. This is another one of those games that, if this was a mini game or a hacking mini game or something that happened throughout some other story, heck, even if you had a visual novel that then required you to do some of these puzzles like Catherine does, this would have a lot more appeal. It's discounted for $1.19, and yeah, I'll put it on the follow list, keep an eye on it, but I'm just feeling like I'm being really overly generous.
The scourge will devour all.
Let's see.
For the wild.
Secret is played. Alright, so let me just double check here and see what this is. This next game is tagged sexual content and nudity. Let me see if there's anything in the screenshots that is too offensive. I don't think so. Alright. So the next game we have on Steam is Mirror Maker. Now, Mirror was the second best-selling game last year, and it had this girl in basically the same image with where it showed that she was tied up in bondage rope, and apparently this is a maker version of that game, which I didn't realize Mirror was an RPG. I thought it was more of a visual novel. This is Mirror. So for $1.19 discounted, this is the make your own version of Mirror and share it with the world, it says. Interesting. So yeah, if you enjoyed Mirror, I should put this on the follow list because, you know, Mirror's on the wish list, and it definitely has like this historical relevance now. I mean, you can't be the second best game to come out in 2018 and not have some relevance. Slightly questionable. Maybe I couldn't actually play Mirror. And they've got a whole bundle here of other games for $9.79 related to Mirror.
We have many secrets.
Yeah, Mirror. I thought Mirror seems like it's a match 3 game, but apparently it's not just a match 3 game. Mirror, by the way, is overwhelmingly positive at I believe 96% of 16,000 reviews. So people know what it is, and they like what it is. So, I mean, what can you really say about that? The second best-selling game on Steam is a adult game. Valve should take that to heart and understand their audience a little bit better.
For the wild.
Don't want to get into a huge rant there. Let's see. This next one's tagged nudity. So we've kind of had a plethora of games tagged nudity and sexual content today. So I don't know if that's because this is the 2-week period in which games of that category get approved, like once every 2 weeks, or if this is just new year, new person in charge of things. This next game doesn't look like it's much of anything. It's probably a cheap Chinese game, if I was to guess. Darn it.
Job's done.
So we have this game called Love Shoot, which might be photography, might not be. looks like it's a visual novel, Chinese game style of things. Maybe you actually do shoot some things. I don't know. It's $1.79, and yeah. Let's see. The player selects a female owner in order, answers a corresponding questionnaire to unlock the story successfully, play casual games, unlock a training mode. It's rated mostly positive, so I'm gonna be generous and put this on the follow list. But it says it's an RPG, but I suspect it's not as good as it's implying it is. And we are just slowly making progress. And let's see. I think I've been putting it off for a couple of games, but I think now is as good a time as any to break up the recording and start another episode. Because yeah, we might as well, you know. That's gonna be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.